Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and in today's video we're going to be exploring this beautiful planet Pluto, but specifically we're actually going to be talking about the New Horizons mission that visited Pluto a few months ago, or I guess more than a year ago now, but for you it may actually be far in the future. We're also going to talk about the future destination of the Horizons mission, and we're going to investigate the few new things we've discovered about Pluto in the last few years, and essentially talk about the important facts of this beautiful dwarf planet. Welcome to What the Math. So the year is 2006. The New Horizons mission is launched from our beautiful planet Earth and becomes the fastest ever spacecraft in space. Essentially, this was the fastest launch, and the destination was a far away object 32 astronomical units away from us, known as Pluto. This was the 9th planet. Then, a few months later, the Pluto planet became a non-planet. It was actually an object now referred to as a dwarf planet, and it became demoted along with a few other rocks that were found in space. But that story was a long time ago, and today we know that there's quite a lot of dwarf planets out there, including of course famous objects like Ceres, Ares, Sedna, and so on. But we're going to be talking about this particular mission because it's discovered quite a lot of new things and was able to introduce a lot of new phenomena to us. First, when it was passing by Jupiter to basically gain a little bit of a speed boost and essentially get what's known as a slingshot maneuver, it discovered a few things about Jupiter because, you know, scientists don't like to waste time. They like to use their resources to the max. And so as the New Horizons passed by Jupiter, it gained like 9,000 miles per hour in speed, and also was able to witness a few really cool phenomena, including the first volcanic eruption on the moon of Jupiter, known as Io. This is the moon that you're about to see in a few seconds as we basically move toward it. So we saw the first volcanic eruption from this beautiful, very hot, very highly irradiated moon that orbits Jupiter. And then, of course, it flew away from the system and proceeded further into our solar system, closer and closer to Pluto. Years have passed, and then, something like 9 years later after it left Earth, it finally reached the vicinity of beautiful Pluto. But interestingly, by then, we've actually discovered quite a lot of new things about this system. First of all, we've discovered that it just so happens that not only are there two objects that are very large orbiting around one another, so there's Pluto and its companion Charon, but there's also at least 4 more, or possibly even more that we haven't discovered yet, moons that these two objects have around them, and you can kind of see them orbiting if I accelerate time here. So we've discovered these on the way to Pluto, and interestingly, this also meant that now we had to be worried about colliding with them. So the probe had to be really careful in trying to avoid these 4 moons that I'm trying to locate, but they're kind of tiny, so it's really hard to see them. So there is at least 4 of them here, and it's really hard to see them. But yeah, there is Nix, Hydra, Styx, and Kerberos. And we can actually take a look at least one of them just to zoom in and see what it looks like. And so, as we were approaching them, the scientists realized, so maybe we might actually end up colliding with one of them, but luckily for us, we didn't. Luckily for us, we were able to pass by Pluto really safely without colliding with anything. And so now what I'm going to show you is a really cool animation that NASA was able to create using the realistic photos from essentially this beautiful mission. And what you're going to be looking at is a kind of a fake landing on the surface of Pluto using the images that we were able to collect from this mission. And so let's observe it, and at the same time let's actually try to recreate it in Space Engine as well, just to see if we can make it look just as beautiful as in those photos. And so as this craft approached Pluto, we've started to discover a lot of new things. First and foremost, of course, is that you can maybe see a bit of an atmospheric glow around this dwarf planet, and that's of course one of the biggest discoveries. We discovered that it has a bit of an atmosphere. Not a lot, but there's some nitrogen in there that is always recycled and does increase or decrease in size depending on the season. However, to get this information, to get these images, it actually took us quite a long time, because the antenna used on this mission and the fact that we're so far away from Earth means that we can only transmit information at like 2 kilobytes per second. You know, your pictures on your computer are usually much bigger than that. They're usually at least a few megabytes. So each photo takes quite a lot of time, possibly up to an hour to transmit. And so by the time we've actually passed Pluto and collected all of these photos, it took weeks to send them back to Earth. So we didn't really see any of this for at least a few weeks or possibly even a few months. So the first images showed us quite a lot of things, but one of the other discoveries was that we've also realized that Pluto is a little bit bigger than we thought. We actually thought it was the second biggest object in amongst the dwarf planets, with Eris being the first, but turns out that Pluto is actually bigger, making it the largest dwarf planet out there, at least for now. Now this craft actually has only one type of an engine, and this is actually why this mission is going to be very limited to how it moves around and how it actually approaches different objects. It only has the so-called hydrazine engines. It doesn't have any ion engines to change its course or to get any orbital changes at all. So when it comes to moving around the outer solar system, we'll be very, very limited to where we can go, unfortunately. So in this case, when we end up reaching the limit of our fuel, this mission will probably be over, because the engines here are not very efficient. The other thing about this probe that's actually kind of cool is that it uses a very interesting CPU. A CPU that's meant to be very, very stable, extremely resistant to everything, and basically can survive in outer space. And that CPU is from a PlayStation video game system. I used to have one, and I know for a fact that even if you drop that thing, it doesn't break. PlayStation was indestructible. And this is exactly the CPU that NASA decided to go with when they were choosing a way to basically create a computer on board of the probe. And PlayStation CPU proved to be very resilient. After many years, it still works just fine and transmits and controls everything very, very well. On top of this, there's actually no solar panels, and this particular probe uses the plutonium-238 as basically as a generator to create all of the electricity. And eventually it'll run out of this fuel, but for many years it will still be able to produce quite a lot of power, quite a lot of output. And this mission is actually not over yet. It still keeps going and going and going, and it's going to reach a new target in 2019. And this new target is known as 2014 MU69. It's actually a very interesting classic Kuiper belt object that's essentially a very large asteroid that's something like 30-ish kilometers in diameter. But we'll find out more about it in 2019, and hopefully by then we'll be able to take some really incredible photos of it. Hopefully the mission will still be going. And one thing I forgot to mention is that the person who discovered Pluto by the name of Clyde Tombaugh is actually on the probe. His ashes are being carried by the probe into the depths of our solar system, which is very interesting and kind of unusual, I guess. But in that way, I guess he got immortalized as the person who not just discovered Pluto, but the first person, in a sense, to visit it as well. And anyway, so that's really all I wanted to say in this video, and I hope you learned something from it, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe and come back here tomorrow to learn something else about space, sciences, or possibly just watch me play a video game. Now, hopefully by 2019 there's going to be a lot new discoveries about Pluto, and hopefully by then I'll be able to create a new video that will teach you even more about this incredible, unusual, and very beautiful dwarf planet. But for now, that is it. The mission goes on. We're going to learn more about 2014 MU69 in the future, and hopefully we'll also get to take some really cool photos of it. See you guys later, space out, and as always, bye bye.